Hey guys, Frank Macaluso here. Welcome to the channel, The Garage. No, just leave it, I like the way that's worded. Are you less excited? Hey guys, welcome to the show! Hey guys, Frank Macaluso here from Garageaholic. Welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at the E30 N54 exhaust. We're going to be doing a two-part exhaust, 2.5-inch dual going to a collector, then mostly 3-inch all the way out through a resonator and a MagnaFlow glass pack muffler. Here we have our exhaust pieces. Basically everything is set and ready to go. We just need to cut, tack, and get this thing started and see how it sounds. Will you join me? Stay tuned. Okay, here's what the setup is going to look like. Realistically, or idealistically, I like to say, it's going to go from the exhaust headers to the paper gaskets. From each of the paper gaskets, 2.5 to the flanges that are going to end up having welded the 2.5-inch stainless steel to it. And it's going to go through a series of pie cuts. These are 7-degree pie cuts, but I'm actually looking to probably end up doing maybe more, we'll see. And then it's going to end up going to individual flex tubes. The individual flex tubes are going to be on the 2.5 lines instead of the one single 3-inch, which I have right over there. And I figured that would be a lot easier to install and remove every time, if need be. Because the way that the two headers are positioned, let me show you really quick here. The way that the two headers are positioned, it's going to be a little bit of a challenge to get both of these on, right? So there's my mocked up piece right there. You can see that's the mocked up Y, basically sitting up against the, and it's actually pretty slick the way that I have it set up. It's going to be pretty nice and tucked in there, which is cool. And now all I have to do is basically meet these two guys individually, these two guys to each of these individual guys. I think it's a little bit easier said than done, and once this part of the exhaust is done, it's actually going to be a lot easier to route the single 3-inch all the way through. But we have the way that we're going to do this is we're going to literally have our studs here. Now these studs are not going to be welded on the back. I do not want to weld these on the back. In fact, maybe I'll weld just these two, right? Just these two, and then leave these guys floating. Because of the way that the geometry is set up here on this, the chances of getting both of these faces to line up and pull off of the studs is going to be incredibly difficult to do, if not impossible. So I'm going to make these guys welded on the backside on this output, and then this output is actually going to just be regular studs. Or maybe actually do the opposite of that. And the reason is because I am unable to get a bolt from the backside here. So I created like a flat face stud that's going to end up going basically something like that. I'm going to weld it. So I might actually weld this part and then make this part the removable part. That way I can get this piece on. This is actually going to be one piece, remember. So, yeah, this is going to be a challenge, but I think it'll be fun. It'll be a pretty good learning experience, I think, for me. And yeah, I'm doing this all on the ground, on my back. No lift for this exercise. So, yeah, let's see how this works. good or useful that time lapse was, but let me sum up what I did. Basically, I was able to put one of the pie cuts on the flange and basically tack them up. And as I was doing that, I was using various lengths of tube to connect one end, which is where I want this guy to be fixed, to the other end, which that guy is fixed as well. And as you can see here, I've got various lengths of tubes, of 2.5-inch tube. So the idea here is to use the fewest number of pie cuts in order to achieve your objective of getting from point A to point B. As of right now, I've used one on the flange, and I would like to use, ideally, just one more, but there might need to be a third. We'll see. But either way, I have all these different sizes that I can play with and get the right sizing to go from here to there using just one more of these. And unfortunately, it's really hard to film all that, especially in a time lapse underneath the car. If I had this on the lift, it would be easier, but I don't. So what I'm gonna do is, I'll do the best I can with the filming. But yeah, I just want to get my length set, and then when I do get the exact lengths that I need, I'll cut it with the right shiny piece of 2.5-inch tube. So I'll get there. I'm gonna work it, but it's just gonna take some time. All right, so I tacked them all in, at least the one branch. This is actually a lot harder than it looks. So let me show you. It's just hard to get it all. There we go. It's just hard to get it all, you know, on video, especially when you're working underneath the car. Now it's not perfect, right? But I have it supported by the jack stand. Well, actually it's a jack, and I have that side tacked on. And this was the harder one actually. And there's a little bit of a gap there, but I'm gonna have to fill that in. I don't think I'm gonna be able to TIG a lot of this, but I will be trying to TIG a lot of the good welds that I have. But I tacked everything in with MIG for now, and then I'm going to basically TIG everything else. So now that this branch is basically good to go, I'm gonna focus on this branch now. Now, all I have to do is just move the welding location to the other side, and then basically connect them together. So yeah, this is difficult. This is definitely not easy to do on your back without a lift, for sure. So, all right, guys, a lot of progress was just made, and I'm sorry I didn't record every step of the way with time lapses. The problem is that, you know, being underneath the car and putting the GoPro underneath, weld splatter does get everywhere, and it hasn't been known to get on the lens, which causes occlusions and light refractions and things, and it's just terrible. So I don't want to do that to the lens. Anyway, I did finish up both of the legs. They are not complete, they're just tacked, and that's why I still have the jack stand on it, is because if I let it go, then the weight of the cantilever weight of this Y piece will end up causing those welds to break. So before I did that, and before I removed this rather, I created just a very rudimentary hanger system here with which is this is like an E90 muffler hanger actually, and I want to get this on, and then I want to remove, once I get it on, I want to remove the jack. I want to see how this thing sits, because I have it pushed up pretty high up against, there we go, pretty high up against the floor there. So let's remove this. Let's actually get it out. So let's bring this down slowly. There we go. Nice. So you're gonna have to forgive me. I did not TIG weld these. I tried, I failed miserably. I need to learn and practice a lot more before I actually do it on a customer's exhaust. However, I did MIG them, and I MIG'd it pretty good with a stainless steel wire. I swapped out the wire for a stainless steel 308 wire, as well as the gas that accompanies that wire, which is basically a 90% helium, 7.5% argon, 2.5% carbon dioxide, and they will polish up and they will not corrode. So the corrosion aspect of this is not a problem. I just need to polish them up and clean them up a little bit better, but overall they will not corrode because it is a stainless steel MIG weld. So yeah, I did have to change everything around, and I will probably do it this way for the rest of the exhaust, but for now, yeah, I need to practice a lot more on the TIG before I can do somebody else's exhaust system. All right, keeping up with the pie cuts that we did on the 2.5, we're gonna end up doing pie cuts on the 3" as well, but we're gonna be making our own pie cuts. We're gonna do 4.5 degree pie cuts on a 3" tube, and let me explain to you how we're gonna do that. All right, so we got our Eastwood Chinese bandsaw here. We got our 3" line, straight as an arrow, 90 degrees, but we don't want 90 degrees. We want 4.5 degrees, less than 90 degrees. So what we wanna do is take this, measure 4.5 degrees, which is what I've kind of done here. As you can see, it's kind of like a little bit less than 90. That actually is 85.5, actually. That's math for you. But you can see here how relative to this line, this is perfectly straight, right? It's very, very parallel. So what we need to do is take this, put it up against this. This plate here actually is what tilts and allows us to get our tilt on our cut. And basically, we need to loosen these up, and we need to tilt it just enough so that this end here, let me shine some light on it. There we go. That till this end here is parallel with this line right here, right? That guy right there. So that means that we have to basically loosen this up, tilt it, make sure it lines up, and then we're good. And then the pipe will actually be angled just a little bit, and then we just do our cuts. We do a cut, then we turn 180 degrees, then we do another cut, and move it out, obviously, and then do that again a couple times. I think we just need like maybe 3 or 4 pie cuts. That's all I'm gonna do here, and we'll see how that works. All right, the first cut is done, but this was not a pie cut. This was our intro cut because remember, the edge of the tube was perfectly flat, so we need to cut our first pie cut, and then what we need to do is turn the tube 180 degrees, and then we cut again. And that way you have your perfectly even 4.5 degrees on each side, which means a total of 9 degrees. They call that a 9-degree pie cut. So what we're gonna do is, I'm gonna see if I can do this with one hand, loosen this guy up. We're gonna twist it just like this, right? Bring this down, and we want to push the tube out just enough so that this inner radius here, this will be the inner radius, has maybe about like a couple millimeters, maybe like 1/8 of an inch, if you will, to it. And I think that's pretty good. The blue line is facing up, and we now tighten it up, right? Just like that. Then we turn it on, and then we're off. Just like that. And now it's cutting our first pie cut. All right, here is the 2.5" pie cut that I used earlier on the downpipes. And this is my 3" pie cut. As you can tell, the angle is a lot less steep. And the reason is because this is actually a 4.5 on each cut. This is a 9-degree pie cut. And this is a 9 degrees on each side, 18-degree pie cut. So what I've decided to do was cut a couple of these in this angle, which is a total of 18 degrees. So I'm cutting a couple more of them, and I will show you what those look like when we're done. I got a couple 18 degrees, I got a couple 9 degrees, different thicknesses, different heights. I think that I have enough to go on at least to build the single 3" part of the exhaust on this E30 N54. Let's move on. Okay, where to start? Well, I mean, we got to meet in the middle, right? So we have our muffler. It's a MagnaFlow 1 in. It's a 3" in and a dual 3" out. We're gonna end up putting on some pretty nice tips onto this, and it's gonna come right out right under the bumper line. So this is a perfect position for the muffler and its hangers, and those are gonna be the only other hangers that we have in this system. The line's gonna come around down underneath the subframe. Obviously it has to, and it's going to come around underneath this very rusty cover, but then it's going to go straight to the position that you see right there, which is basically the Y, the output of the Y. So we have some 3-inch pipe right here, right? We have some pie cuts, and we have our resonator. But the resonator is going to go right smack in the middle here, right? The resonator is going to go right here. And there's going to be 3-inch pipe between the resonator and the Y, and then the resonator and the inlet of the muffler. So it's going to be really hard to do this and weld and show you at the same time. So I'm going to try to do as much of it in time lapses as I can, because obviously it's just trial and error. Fit, cut, check, you know, tack, and then just build out. So that's really all it takes to build an exhaust. It's not that hard. It's just you just need to have a lot of patience when you do this. So let's get started and just, you know, got to start somewhere. So yeah, let's do it. Still in the air, but the exhaust is done. It is basically tacked from here on over, which is basically from the transmission or the you know, the rubber mount over. That's why the mount is not fully seated yet, because I need to take it out and fully weld it. But I got my resonator in there. I got my 3-inch going to a pie cut, going up and over to the muffler. The exhaust as you see it. Now look, this is the way it looks right now, right? It basically is, there's 2 holders, there's 2 exhaust holders. There's basically one on the muffler, and then there's one, as I showed you earlier, off the transmission holder. So I think I want to do one more holder on the muffler, because there's definitely an opportunity up here to do one. If you can see in there, I might do another holder and weld it directly to the muffler, but I still have to make it easily removable. And this one is actually easily removable. If you look at that right here, see, it actually screws right in. So I can screw that in and unscrew it without having to fool around and muck around with the actual rubber mount, which is actually quite difficult to get on. So let's bring this thing down and see how it looks after everything settles. There it is. The whole thing is down. Obviously I need to weld in my tips here still, so there's tips coming. But yeah, this is basically it. You can see underneath here. And just look how tight it is hugged up against the bottom of the chassis. I mean, it's almost like it's imperceptible from underneath. I mean, the lowest point is going to be the header right there. But the rest of the exhaust is really, really tight. Really nice and slick, nice and slim. So what do you say, guys? You want me to start it? You guys are oil fans. I mean, I think you guys deserve it, right? You guys want to hear what this thing sounds like? All right, let's give it a shot. Let's try, see what happens. Fuel pump connected. Click. There we go, and let's see if this works. Well, it worked. The throttle body has to calibrate. Let's try that again. Wait about 3 or 4 seconds, and then try starting. Nope. Let's try it again. Still does it. let's talk about how much of an idiot I am. Why was the engine idling like that? And why wasn't it working properly? I probably started it maybe 20 times and it still had that same idle. Well, here's what I did. We basically have what's called a engine coolant temperature sensor. We went to a 4-wire sensor, which is fine. 2-wire or 4-wire. The 4-wire is being used. 2 wires are going to the DME. 2 wires are going to the cluster to tell the driver what the temperature is. The problem is that I actually unclipped these wires and removed them from these yellow ones here. There's 2 here that are black that are going to the cluster. The wire, I basically removed them because I'm putting a connector in there. So I removed them, and when I removed them and tried to start over the last, couple of minutes, wouldn't start, wouldn't click, wouldn't fire up. I mean, it kind of did, but it didn't, right? So I actually put these back in there, which means that the DME, when you turn the ignition on, actually senses some resistance. It needs something, right? Because without it, and you have wires just hanging, it senses an open. So it needs to sense some resistance. And when it does, this is what happens. Did you hear that? That was the throttle bodies actuating. Do it again. So that was basically essentially the throttle bodies figuring out where it needs to be, and then it calibrates itself so it knows its position, so that when you press the pedal, it kind of knows how much to open. I needed to have the DME sense engine temperature so that it completes its loop and it will start. Now, I haven't started it since then. You guys can trust me on that. But let's try and start it now. So what you do is you turn the key on. Okay. You wait just a couple seconds. Let's give it a little bit of fuel here. And it should start up. Let's see. So there you go. That's another little piece of information that I didn't know before. We're done. We're basically done with the exhaust. I do need to completely weld it up, and I need to do the tips. I'm gonna give this a try. I'm gonna try doing the tips later on in another episode, but I'm gonna try TIGging them. I'm gonna try doing it as professionally as I possibly can because I wanna learn, I wanna be better at what I do. And I appreciate all of your constructive criticism you guys give me on the comments. And I like to respond to every single comment, good and bad, because I know you guys watch it, and I know you care, and I know you wanna learn, and I know you wanna be better too. So I appreciate that, I really do. So thank you for everything you guys do. We got about 3 or 4 more episodes until we hit our finale in a couple weeks. Guys, we got a lot of cool stuff coming up on this. We still need to do some painting. We need to do the final reconstruction, and we need to do some test driving. So let's get this thing running. Let's get some test driving done, huh? Guys, like, subscribe, tell your friends, spread the word. Let people know, hey, if you guys want to do an N54 swap, I'm doing this one, E30. You got E36 that I've also done as well. If you don't have enough knowledge based on the 2 swaps that I've done, all the YouTube videos, and the guides, then maybe you should ask me and I can help you, right? But my name is Frank Michaelusa from Garageaholic, and I guess that's it. I'm out. Thanks guys for watching. Later.